Before we pick the perfect song and start to learn how to manipulate it to fit your story perfectly, which we'll do later, this first concept is really important to understand so you know better what song to pick in order to edit your video with. It's really about this duality, how you control the music, and then afterwards how music kind of controls you and your video. More specifically, when you're choosing the song, you're choosing the feeling that the viewer will feel and help elevate those feelings throughout your story. When you have your song in the timeline, you'll also learn in future lessons how to manipulate it, how to best cut, and maybe you can lengthen it or shorten it to best fit your story. So that's how you control the music. But the music itself has the feelings that you chose, but it has a certain beat, it has a certain rhythm, a tempo. You'll see later that when you insert the song in the timeline, there are things that the music controls. It controls the pace of the video because you cannot change the tempo or the rhythm. And that's how the music will control you. When the feeling you chose is set, the song will more or less control how long that part lasts. Here are a few examples. That's when the fun actually starts. Yeah.
How do we move so far away? Hold on. How much can we both take?
I do have to admit, or for example, to add drama, a classical song has a very distinct piece that totally controls how I edit. And there are four crucial things. Of course, you can sometimes manipulate it to your liking, but don't worry about it. We'll learn this in future lessons. Understanding this duality is extremely helpful when you're picking a song. Because having this in mind ahead of time, it helps you choose maybe a certain type of beat or a certain type of song that can help you edit better for your story. I personally think it's quite an interesting concept. It's kind of like a dance between you and the music while you're editing the video. It is so interesting. And with that said, the first and very crucial step is to choose music wisely. And that's what the next lesson is going to be about. I'll see you there. Let me tell you a little secret. Sometimes it takes me way longer than I'm willing to admit just searching and finding the perfect song with the right fit for my video. Because believe me, this decision can make or break your video. Choose the wrong song, the video feels flat or simply just too distracting that the viewer kind of gives up on your video. But if you choose the right one, oh my god, it elevates it. Well, here we are.
Home, three, home, home, three, home.
So in this lesson, I'll teach you how to find the right song and also how I personally look out for it. So the first very important question is, how do you even find the right one? How do you know it's the right one? And it comes down to only one thing, the feeling. The feeling that you want your viewers to feel. So for example, if you're in a sentimental part of the video, then your song also has to match that feeling. This is everything I celebrate.
Shoot out the charter, feel it, burn off the fire, let go, until there's peace to your core. Live a life you adore. Live a life you adore.
Or for an intro, for example, if you want a calm intro, then you use a calm song. 1 year ago, my life looked completely different. Or if you want a banger of an intro, then you choose a more energetic song. On the left side, I have the newest new 3DS that was released in 2015. And 10 years later, I have here on the right The AYN Thor, an emulation device that is a complete beast, inspired by what you see here on the left. Does the Thor? It all comes down to the feeling, matching the feeling that you want to portray with the song. But of course, finding the right song is easier said than done. As I told you in the beginning, my little secret, sometimes it takes me way too long. I've spent like an hour straight just listening to songs and like, nope. And sometimes it just clicks. Sometimes I look for something and I just kind of find the piece that I want to. It's hit or miss. And it's not only for me, but it's for anyone. But to help a little with the process, I'm going to personally show you how I look for my songs. So this is how I usually search for music. I either have a genre I want. For example, here you have pop, jazz, hip hop. I don't know, I usually use indie rock because I like that better. If I go on my like tracks, I usually like classical music. This screams more curiosity, but also something more like a string ensemble. But then for some sorts of videos, I prefer to use indie rock.
IT, I can take what I need to get by.
It gives this nostalgia vibe. I really like indie rock, but that's just personal preference, of course. You have the genres, but then you can also have the feelings. Sometimes I write nostalgia, for example. I write nostalgia, and the music that appears are supposedly all nostalgic. It got that initial beat and then like a whoosh, like a reveal moment here. I think this is a really nice one, for example. If the feeling is certain, like slightly sentimental, slightly nostalgic, then this song is perfect for it. But for example, if I'm doing an intro, a simple intro or simple background sounds, I'm looking for like, let's say, simple drums. Or if you want to add the bass too, which is not here, let's see. So personally, I sometimes try and go for the genre that I want, and if that doesn't work, then maybe I write something specific, the feeling, nostalgia, or simple drums, modern simple beat, something that I'm specifically looking for. Honestly, a bit up to luck, but there's some skill involved. It makes it easier. If you already have experience and you like the genres already, then this makes it much more easy. Especially in these premium platforms, they make it easier for you compared to the YouTube Creative Studio. And with that said, you chose your song with the right fit. You don't just put it in your timeline underneath your video and call it a day. That's why in the next few lessons, you learn how to manipulate it so that your song ends perfectly when your video ends or when a section ends. This is really the most important, but also the most fun part because it's so satisfying when it clicks. And I'll see you there. Usually a song is just way too long for the section that I want to show. That's why you have to end it somehow. You cannot just end it by simply cutting it anywhere and then throw it out. It will sound very abrupt. And if it sounds abrupt, it is very distracting. The viewer thinks about it, like, where's the song? That's why this is the first of 5 manipulation tricks on how to end a part of a song. This first trick is the easiest to implement because it depends on what's happening in the video itself, in the screen. A lot of times during the video, stuff happens naturally, like an object falls, or you open a door. It took me about 5 years to understand. And there's some random distinct sound that happens. And right at that point, that's when you cut the song.
したいのならば、そのチャンスをつかむこともできるかもしれません。私はあなたに協力します。
Close, that was close.
Right at that distinct moment, like peak of audio wave. That's when you cut it. No matter where you are during that song, you just cut it there.
Close.
Because this external sound, it is quite the natural transition. It doesn't distract the viewer, and by cutting it out, it actually shifts more the attention to what's happening in the video. It creates this dynamic. So let me show you a few examples.
Things right to your face. You know I do.
So the very classic example is that you have a door opening that starts or stops the music. But in this case, I actually added a sound effect, this trigger sound. And because of this distinct sound, I decided to cut the music here, as you see here, right here, a hard cut, to exactly where the trigger sound happens. So let's hear it all together. It's been 3 years since I've made the typing fast tutorial. But the problem is, I stopped practicing.
It honestly wasn't that fun anymore.
So the trigger made a smooth transition, this distinct sound. It can be anything. As you see here, I added it, or something that happens in the video, and you can also just cut right there. The more distinct, usually, the better it works. After this break, there's 2 things that you can do. You can just resume the song like nothing happened. And because the feeling is still the same, this horror type feeling, I decided to continue the song in another part afterwards. So let's see what happens here.
It honestly wasn't that fun anymore. Until now.
Or you can just leave it out, use this as a kind of a music transition, and pick another song.
Close, that was close. Yeah.
I never played baseball in my life.
Oh,
You know Wii Sports?
Wii Sports.
I got baseball there.
Baseball, okay.
After all of it, can transactional friendships turn into real ones?
Of course, you have to go through the extra work of picking another right-fitting song, but that's just how video goes. It mostly depends of the feelings of the video. If they continue to be the same, then you use the same song if you want to. But if there's something that really shifted, then you use another song. So this is the first of many manipulation tricks. It doesn't mean it's the best or the worst. It just really depends on the context. In this case, it only depends on the external, on what's happening during the video. So with that said, I'll see you in the next one. So from the previous lesson, it all depended on what's externally. During the video, if something fell, a door opened, something like that. This trick doesn't require that at all. It just requires on the song itself. So if the song you chose has a very simple beat or a very repetitive beat, you can try and listen to certain patterns and simply end it after the main beat. Let me show you a few examples. So for example, in this case, I have a very simple beat. Let's hear it. It's just drums. And it continues. But at any point that it is more favorable, I can count the beats. 1, 2, 3, 4. And maybe I can cut here. And literally by feeling the song and counting the beats, you can cut at the main beat and it sounds great. I can cut maybe a little earlier. Like here. Let's hear it. Sounds great. And just like so, because you have a simple beat, you can count 1, 2, 3, 4, and you can cut at each one of them, and it will sound good. That's how you can stop the music, how you can stop the song at any point, and that's how you control the music. And let's hear it at an example here.
Being 100% honest with you, having most of the gear that I want. I want to hate this keychain camera.
And you see, I ended the beat right here.
100% honest with you,
In theory, I could have ended there and used another beat, but I did it so I could like emphasize more on what's happening on the video.
being 100% honest with you, having most
And then you continue on the same beat. And you see the timing of the intro was perfect with the bass. That's when the bass starts. That's when we're picking up the song. That's why I decided to cut there before so I could time this part a little bit better. And then by continuing this with the same technique, I can stop the song when I start to speak. I got it delivered and the box has seen better days. It was a completely natural transition. You saw how I got it delivered and the box ta tum tum ta ta, and then you stop. While you're stopping, I'm continuing to speak and the focus shifts on me. And that was a great transition by just cutting smartly. I got it delivered and the box has seen better days. My favorite are these two, and they advertise. And you don't need the background music always, you can just talk, but by using this song intelligently, it makes it so satisfying to watch.
being 100% honest with you, having most of the gear that I want. I want to hate this keychain camera.
I got it delivered and the box has seen better days. My favorite are these two, and they advertise 7 photo filters. Of course, for this trick, the music choice is essential. Remember that duality of how you control music or the music controls you? For this trick, sometimes I purposely use a simple song with a simple beat so that at the end, the simple rhythm and predictable beats, and I can control the music to end whenever I need it to. So this is a very powerful technique. So I'll see you in the next one where we'll learn further. So far we learned two tricks, one where it really depends on the external, and the second one if the music is a little simpler. This third technique is one that I use when the previous one, just cutting to the beat to a simple song, really doesn't work. Maybe the song has a lot of instruments or has a lot of going on, and if you just cut it to the beat, it will just feel abrupt. It doesn't really work that way. Because the best editing is actually the one that the viewer really doesn't notice. In a way, it's kind of like a goalkeeper. If you save shots throughout your career, no one really notices. But if you concede a goal, all of a sudden everyone has the attention on that thing. The same thing applies for video editing, and in this case for audio editing. If you just cut a song abruptly, all of a sudden the viewer is like, whoa, what happened? And it feels weird and you're already distracted. You're not focused on the storyline of the video, but you're focusing on what was that? And the flow is over. That's what you don't want. That's why we have another technique, and it is called the reverb. This requires a little more tinkering here and there, but it is so worth the result when no other technique works. For example, I have this song which has a lot more components, has a lot more layers to it. And if I was just to cut like the previous simple beat, like the drums, it wouldn't really work. Let's try it. Let's try it here. It sounds abrupt. It doesn't really sound professional. That's why we use reverb. Reverb basically uses the beat and then it extends it. It's like an echoey. Wow. And of course, this depends on your editing software. If you're using Adobe Premiere, then you can use Audio Track Mixer. You go here on the different audio, and then you come here, Reverb, Studio Reverb. Make it decay or low frequency cut, a little bit wetter. But of course, this depends from editing software to editing software. If you use another one, I totally recommend you just go on YouTube and type how to end a song in a reverb, this editing software. Just make sure you have reverb. And by having the reverb, this is how it sounds. You see, the beat just extends and it makes it so there's a nice transition. And then the viewer kind of forgets about it. It doesn't even notice. But if it didn't have the reverb, it would just end a little too abruptly. That's why the reverb is crucial here. So let's maybe watch this video here. On the left side, I have the newest. This is the reverb here, this part here. That's when I use the reverb. New 3DS that was released in 2015. And 10 years later, I have here on the right the AYN Thor, an emulation device that is a complete beast. And just like so, it was such a smooth transition. Because the song had so many layers to it, I couldn't just cut it. I had to use reverb. Maybe by now you're thinking, whoa, this editing thing for music is quite a lot of work, quite a lot of active process and active steps. And yeah, this is completely true for any great video. You don't notice it, the transitions are so smooth, but there was a lot of thought process behind it. That's why I truly meant in the beginning that great video editors spend 40 to 60% of their time just on the sound, not even on the video. But don't worry, tinkering with things like this is actually great fun, especially when the result, it's so satisfying. That's what I'm all here about. And I'll see you in the next one.